All right, we're going to have one more, and this is going to be from Beau Rawlins. He is a Texas Christian University graduate, and he runs beach cleaning services in Galveston Island, I believe, and he's going to give us his presentation. And then we talked earlier, right while he's coming up, about the after the day. We're going to. I hope we're going to have some demonstrations here a little bit. After this, we'll have a break, and then we're going to have our little hot dog cooking beach party. And it's can't have it here. We got to move it down about 100 yards down the beach here. So hope everybody sticks around for that. There you go.
Thanks, John. As he said, I'm Beau Rawlins with Beach Cleaning Services. We are a partnership located in Galveston, and we were formed out of a necessity from a homeowner association and working with the city of Galveston. As far as the time factor goes, they needed something right now. And at the time, I had a little John Deere tractor with a small hay rake, and it took me about 5 hours to realize I was basically working against God and I wasn't going to win. So took back, punted, and actually realized that this had a lot of support behind it, and it was a necessity in Galveston to help work with what the city of Galveston's doing. So thanks, John, for having me. Principals are one of my best friends, Paul. He's back there. Well, he's little. He's a long-time Galvestonian, married, 4 kids, and a fire passion for baseball, surfing, and running shoeless on the beach. Myself, I'm a 6th-generation VOI. My family's got roots in Galveston since 1884. Married, I have 3 children. I contract in Galveston. I run a youth football league, and time on the beach, as we all do. And my kids are quite fun of going about thigh deep to knee deep and seeing what they can find in the seaweed. And we always try to name what we get out of there. I'm passing around a sheet. In the airport, I had an entire everything we've done for the last 16 months on a camera and on a video card that somehow TSA didn't put back in my bag. So I'd like to share some other pictures that I had with some of y'all, and there's a paper that's going around, and if you don't mind sharing the email address, I'd like to send it. What we do is we're private beach maintenance. We maintain beaches. We currently have 6.2 miles of maintenance that makes up about 6 private homeowners associations that we work for. Each day, Paul and I actually are the ones that are running the tractors, and we tend to like doing that. Probably the first few years we're doing it just so that we can educate the homeowners and the tourists that come to Galveston so that they can go spread the word of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and basically to educate each of them. We basically have evolved into becoming dune architects that have passion about saving Galveston's dunes. I never realized, and I'll show you just ahead, just how bad a shape we're in if you look at Google Maps and just see how close we are as a barrier island to losing pretty much everything we have on the west end. And I think it's at a critical point, and I thank God for developing Sargassum and GLO for helping us to use it to support and give a little bit of structure to the dune lines that we have. We're very careful to not to impact the profile of our beach. The first few months probably upset a few people, and then realized just how important it was to create a system that was consistent and did not destroy the profile of our beaches. And we have begun to take pictures and monitor these. I was happy to hear from Robert West yesterday that he's been secretly monitoring our sites, and I think we're in pretty good shape so far. So I was happy to hear that yesterday. We partner with the City of Galveston as far as they don't call us and they don't give us business, but we do get help from them in the fact that they know that we're out there and we know that they're there. We do actually move the driftwood and the logs. I know that was a concern earlier, but we had an insurance adjuster that came out after a very strong tide, and one of the large logs actually displaced a couple of pilings on a wood house that was close to the shore, and that was the reason. It was lodged in between under that house. So because of that statement, we began to pick up the large logs and also remove them towards the back of the dune lines. We also work closely with Dr. Landy's group of monitors for turtle sightings. First thing we do when we get to the beach in the mornings, we send 2 guys out with a plastic bag, as well as Paul or myself, and we walk the entire beach that we're going to be working on before we bring equipment onto that beach, just simply to monitor. Do not have any turtles there, or if we find them, of course, to let them know. We have 1-800-TURTLE on our on all of our phones, so we know where to go just in case. This is the beach that was done last week. This is what we try to end up with. If you notice, there's a stopping point there at about 20 feet before the shoreline. We do the best we can, as I'll get into in just a second, of not actually disturbing what we call the wetline once the tide recedes. This here is in Jamaica. No, this is actually Sea Isle, and this is the beginning of a beach that we do. This here is also, this is actually Point West. And what you'll notice is we leave the row there right at the shoreline. We try to leave about a 3 or 4 foot row. Again, we try to stay off the wet tide line. And then we bring it back to the dune area. Basically how we do it, in the beginning, I had no clue just how much this meant to Galveston beaches. I basically just did it as a favor, and we got blessed with having a good business out of it. So we do this with passion. We do this with a lot of respect for the beaches. My family, like I said, has been there for a long time, and I plan on my future family to be there also. Like I said, we handpick debris, and that's our turtle check time. We use medium to heavy machinery. Generally, we've probably got about 5 to 10 times that we'll have to actually bring out the front end loader, like pretty much everyone else that has said. And we also have a 100 horsepower Kubota tractor that we have a special rake, and the reason for that is that we have a rolled tines on a rake, and we do the best we can. What we have found is that the tighter that we get these seaweed rolls, basically the better and the more expedited the vegetation occurs. And we always go, and this is probably one of our most important points, is it all goes from the dry tide line to the dune line. This is our starting point, and out the gates we go. This is here on East Beach. We actually, we're getting close to start working with one of the new homeowners associations there on that East Beach. Just a beautiful picture there on one of the beaches we do, and you can see the rows we started here in the front, about 15 foot in front of the current dune line. That's our tractor. And this is our rake. These are called Dutch S tines. And basically the importance of those, A, is it allows the sand to come out of the back. But most importantly, like I said, it causes, we found, if we angle the tines in the correct way, so as they don't dig too deep into the sand. But secondly, the rolling effect of these tines actually create a very tight seaweed roll. And that adds a lot better structure to the base of the dunes that we're doing. And that's probably one of our most important things, is how we place the rows. The biggest thing we've found in looking at the topography of Galveston, and also through the Google Maps, is looking down at it, we have a ton of breaks in Galveston on the dune front. Basically, our high tides, even if we did have a mid-row at this point, they would be destroyed pretty quickly, just simply because there's so many gates open to that midline. So what our goal is to basically, for the beaches that we're working for, A, to maintain them for their rental properties and for the homeowners that live in our community. But secondly, we've begun to educate them just how important it is to create a continuous row without breaks, and having only specific areas that they enter the beach from. And so that education has actually gone a really long way and seeing just how important it is to create that single row. Also, on the entry points, we take careful measures to bring the curve all the way around so that, like I said, there's not a break for the middle row. What we have found by rolling these seaweed, basically when we place it and they're rolled tight, the vegetation appears in a matter of a few weeks. And, it's only a matter of time before we're gonna get what we all know will come on these barrier islands. And so the quicker we can get these things to vegetate, the better. This is just more pictures of the rows that we're beginning. You can see in the back left of this picture, that was last year's row. And of course, there in the front is where we're beginning this year. And this, there in the middle, you'll see what I guess others have called a rack line. We leave that deposit there. We are very careful not to extract the seaweed that is too deep or embedded in the sand. And each of our contracts that we have, as far as partnered up with the homeowners associations, we bring everyone out there and show them samples and examples of what they will have at the end product, why they will have that product, and what the main reason is for leaving this embedded seaweed. What I found when I first got into this thing was GLO had the beaches and dunes. They had the terminology that I began to educate myself on, and it's a great tool to use for us. It went on through the sand cycle, and kind of what I saw is what I didn't realize growing up in Galveston is just how important the wind is to us in carrying the sand and the sediment over those dunes. Another big deal is the fact that many people will, when they're placing these dunes, or placing the seaweed and the sand in the back area, they get them too high, and the vegetation doesn't take root near as quickly as shorter rows. And so we have found that the wind does our job if we just keep our rows a little bit short. And this is kind of a sample of that break line I was talking about. We do the best we can to vegetate all the way through so that those breaks are not there and the wind can do its job behind the dunes. And that just shows what happens when there is a break. This is a good example of that. That also came off the website of the GLO was a website. It's my dog. The most important thing we found that I really think is a huge deal is the fact that many times when we're clearing these beaches, I have found that attention's not paid to what process they take. We have found that it's extremely important to start at the water, not at the water's edge, but the water line, the water side. What has happened is people have started up at the dune side, they basically disturb the entire crust that the sand has done overnight through tides or whatever else. And that fluff that's created through the rake or through scraping, if they start at the back row and then, of course, bring the seaweed from the tide line back up into the dunes, basically you found that the sand that seaweed picks up because of the fluff is double what it would pick up if they just started from the tide line and then they go backwards instead of starting at the dune line going towards the tide line. And that makes a huge difference. We're careful, again, like I said, to not really increasing the depth of our tines so that we're not basically pulling what I call the black sand or the compost sand. When we see that, we know to basically back off because that's the natural composting area of the beach, and we're careful not to disturb that. Of course, in Galveston, there's very little driving that occurs, so that helps a lot because I know that in situations, especially like what I learned here, is that they have the driving, so some of those areas do have to be cleaned. So luckily, we do not have to deal with that. But my main thing to harp on this is always push deposits first. Push your piles first. Never disturb the sand at the dunes first. That's their point west again after we clean. If you notice, we start back off the tide line again. Why do we all do this? Why are we all here? I truly believe that Sargassum is a huge blessing in disguise. I don't want to take it off the beach. I know that I'm learning that over many years that the deposits equal footage and they take away from our beach. But I don't see the part that high tides or hurricanes, and luckily and blessedly that we have not had to deal with that yet, but it's only a matter of time. And I think that the entire process will balance itself off. I'm very happy for that deposit of sand because God knows we need it in Galveston. So is it a blessing in disguise? Absolutely yes. Could you tip that for me? This is a Google map. I'm hoping it shows up at the right spot. As you can see, let's see if this works here. Okay, for most people in this room, they've been to Galveston and they've gone west, and they know that San Luis Pass Road is a road that basically goes west along the beach, passes over San Luis Pass, and then on to Surfside Beach. Everyone knows what these structures are, right? These are all houses. And we all see the breaks in each one of these. These breaks will basically end up right here. The minute we have an extremely high tide or a hurricane at any point in time. We all know who basically will own these houses fairly soon. And so I have found that beach cleaning services passion and what I think we're trying to do, I truly believe are going to help these homes. I feel sorry for these people because many people in this subdivision here are full-time residents of Galveston. These are not rentals. And so finally I began to educate them on the importance of closing up all these holes. And so that's what we're working on now. Go ahead. And you just X out of that, I think. This here is Point West. Many people have heard Syntex came down, they put a ton of houses that are empty. But they're there. They were a big investment in Galveston and the island, and they are great rental properties and add a bunch to the tax rolls of Galveston quickly. If you notice, you'll see that the dune line is approximately, at this point in time, 25 feet in front of the crossover. The crossover was built with the stairwell ending about 10 foot in front of the previous dune line. And as you can see, this is a very well-vegetated dune. It's not sparsely vegetated, it's well vegetated. Very good root growth inside there. Go ahead and hit that. Okay, this is taken, this is, let's see, this here is the, the community center there at Point West. At this point in time, you'll see there were no houses. The houses you just saw on that previous picture, and you see the crossovers. This is in 1.5 years' time. They're 25 foot in front of here. This exact beach is also the beach that accretes to a point of about 10 foot a year. So luckily on this particular beach in Galveston, the amount they're gaining per year in the dune line, they're almost gaining on the seed line also. And at this point in time, if you see all the breaks there, those are all a continuous road now. We have no breaks at Point West, and it's been very easy to maintain their dune line since we got it caught up. Another reason why we do this, if you go ahead and hit this real quick, a lot of people have talked about education in the community, and I feel that's probably the most important thing that any community can do. With the Parks Board, they hired Rochelle, that I think she left here earlier. She works with the Visitors Bureau, and she does a very good job of publicizing what's going on with this sargassum, why it's here, how we can work with it, what we're doing to basically, or what we're using it for. As you can see, this forms new sand dunes naturally renourishing our beach. Seaweed also provides habitats for a wide variety of sea life. Things like this is what every community needs to do, and basically don't let up. Slap them in the face with it, because eventually we're going to all work together on this and create that balance. Excellent. This is why. This is actually, I borrowed this picture, so like I said, give me your name, I need to send you my home. This is actually in Padre, but this is why we do what we do. This is why we're all here. This is why we're here. We need to count our blessings. Balance seems to be the key word so far at this symposium. We at Beach Cleaning Services view sargassum as a gift from nature, and we need to help secure. I truly believe that sargassum is a tool for me to use to help with dune replenishment, to help with the structure of the dunes, so that possibly we don't lose all the homeowners and the communities on the west end that we are very feared to lose soon. Like I said, San Luis Pass Road's at a critical stage. We believe that basically forming these persistent partnerships with nature and preserving what we have is crucial, and we hope and are passionate that our service provides this. Again, tight row placement, persistent reinforcement, and monitoring quick vegetation of newly placed rows is of most importance to invest in the future of our dunes and island community. This is my short thoughts and realities of living in Galveston, going through hurricanes, knowing that my great-great-uncle and great-great-grandfather went through a 1900 storm. We are not in control. We are only temporarily in control. We in this room are all probably most aware of the hurricanes, winds, and high tides. They could care less and continuously keep us in check. Harmony exists in the same capacity. If we can use what we have on our beaches that we've been blessed with by nature and utilize it in a way that is a positive way, I believe that that's the best thing we can do. Sargassum, I've already found, is as inevitable as the changing tides. It's here to stay. We need to work with it and partner up with it. And we and our families thank God for it and respect it as a part of our community. As some fishermen in industry make their living by the sea, so do we. I like taking pictures out there, so there's a few in there. Our take-home message. Rolling and packing the sargassum creates a tight habitat for expedited vegetation growth, as enforced by Amy Williams. Not carving out the wet row left by tides ensures beach profile, continues natural composting, and helps to leave habitat for invertebrate and fauna, as explained by Dr. Kim Withers. And luckily, there's no considerable difference between beaches with sargassum removed and those beaches that are left untouched, as supported by Robert Webster's study. But yet, sargassum is a blessing for necessary dune support structure. Well, we believe at BCS, our future, we would like to continue to advance our education in sargassum and dune architecture and provide that balanced support for any coastal communities along the Gulf in the form of, we're hoping to get out and form a beach maintenance seasonal contract consulting, equipment design and development through people that spoke before me, permitting and dune restoration contracting, and most of all, and most importantly, educate each of our tourist community through Parks Board, Homeowners Association, signage, and verbally speaking to our visitors while we maintain our beaches. In conclusion, thank you to John, all the presenters that have shared their experiences. Thank you to the City of Galveston, Lou and Mario, for the work and partnerships you formed with us for the betterment of Galveston as a community. And thank you to the County of Galveston and Lee for their hard work on Bolivar and persistence and continuing to build a strong base for tourist support. You know, basically, we all have to work together in that area. We can't put it off on each other because basically that just hurts our entire community and what supports our community in a huge way, which is the visitors that we have come to the island, as well as the fishermen and basically, you know, the entire economy with the real estate market also. So by us all three working together, we will consistently create an atmosphere that I think people will continually like to visit. And I thought I had, that's it. All right. Thanks.
Questions for Beau, I'm sure.
Come on.
I like that a lot. And I'll tell you what I like about it the most. One,
you really realize that it's only a matter of time till a hurricane comes along and takes away your dunes, which are very small compared to ours. But Hurricane Carla took away 200 feet of ours. I've talked to old islanders. A lot of people here know where Horace Caldwell Pier is up in Port Aransas. Before Hurricane Carla, you had to take a road behind the dunes to get to the pier because you couldn't get down the beach because of the dunes. They were that big and high and wide. It's going to happen again. People are terribly afraid that if we allow the dunes here to build seaward or do any front stacking, which builds them seaward, that that's a forever thing. It's only a matter of time, and who knows how long. Could be short, could be long, when we're going to get a really bad storm, and it's going to take them out. And people up at your end of the island, at Galveston and Bolivar and Surfside, would give anything for half of the dunes that we have that people tend to undervalue.
And it's only about $160 a truck. Just to bring $160 a truck to bring it in. So
I think they just spent at Quintana something like $35 or $45 a yard for nourishing the beaches there.
Well, that was only because we had a local bank. If they had come from somewhere else, we wouldn't have that.
I think you're good.
We have a lot of passion for it, so it's easy to do a job that you really believe in helping. So. Yes, sir.
With your rake there, that rolls it up into like a bale?
Well,
and then
when I say bale, I think of a thing I grab and give to a horse. But, I mean, It's not that perfect. But in consideration of a push and a pull with a rake, it's considerably different with the density that we get that we push up into the dunes. So, is it a roll like a round roll? No. But is it a roll of some sort that's easier to push and more compacted when we get it to the dune line? Yes.
What's the mechanics? You're driving along and you got this rake piling stuff up. Then how do you get it over to the dune? You're going
that's what I'm saying. We roll that up into a line. We'll roll it the whole way.
Okay.
And then we get that line, and we take that line and we'll roll it up and place it in the specific areas that are open.
Okay.
Did you work particular with the beach?
Yes. Not perpendicular like starting and going up.
Yeah.
We go horizontal, we create our row.
Oh, okay.
And then we take that row and push it to the beach. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. The beach that they're creating that gains 10 feet or so of beach land per year, well, what can we do to make that happen?
Well, there's so many different philosophies of why in Galveston. Just starting with the river system that we used to have coming into Galveston that, is currently dammed up in a lot of places. The sediment that we used to get there is no longer deposited where it used to be. That's, one reason that people say. 3 miles of jetties that the Corps of Engineers put on the east end. We have great sand right on the interior of that jetty. But it takes, what they say is that it takes the current so far off the island. And like I said, I'm a builder and I clean beaches. I'm not a doctor. I'm just what people have talked about forever in Galveston. And there's many engineers that live there. Corps of Engineers are there. I mean, a lot of my friends who are with the department, just through talking over a beer, have told me this. The jetties are so far out, it takes the current so wide and past that basically the sand deposits that were created earlier before the jetty were there are not able to deposit, as well as the differences that we have in the currents through our jetties that are piers, rock piers that go all the way perpendicular to the beach. So why is it deposited there? Well, it's particularly deposited there because that's kind of where, if it makes its loop, right before San Luis Pass, that's where the deposit has been made. It's made right there at San Luis Pass. The whole area, if you can see and look on Google, the 2006 Google, like the one that I pulled up was 2006, 2008 now. But if you looked at a current map, it would be unbelievable in 2 or 3 years' time what's happened there. And as well as on East Beach, the other beach, one of the first slides there at, it's in Coastal Living magazine this past month, but there's a big subdivision they're putting actually down on the beach, not behind the seawall. They're actually putting it in front of the seawall, which is amazing, but anyway, it's there. That beach also, which is extremely close to the jetty system there in Galveston, is also gaining a lot of sand. Everything on the interior is loose.
You've got about 30 million cubic yards stored east of the east jetty because of the net sediment transport to the south. That's about 200,000 yards a year. The south jetty is because those jetties are so very long, sometimes you have waves that carry sand east to up in the vicinity of the jetty there, but the jetty is so very, very long, waves going in the other direction can't get there because there's a wave shadow behind the jetty. So it's kind of like a one-way valve that brings waves up in the lee of the jetties on the west side of them, and it can't get out. The east side of them has a much larger amount because it's been catching a couple 100,000 a year, yards a year since they built it.
Well, I think it's all being deposited back in the channel because for some reason they have to clean that all the time.
Some of it's getting in there, but if you look on Google and draw a line down the beach to where what's the port called over there on the
Port Rocket? Oh, that's 53rd Street.
On Bolivar.
Oh,
side.
okay.
Okay, there's that 30 million cubic yards is on the Bolivar side. That was sand that was moving down Bolivar Peninsula, which would have been able to cross the pass except for the jetties.
Mm-hmm.
So now it cannot. So there would have been 200,000 cubic yards a year coming from Bolivar Peninsula onto the Galveston beaches, which no longer is, and 30 million of that is sitting trapped in that big fillet up on the east side of the jetties on the Bolivar
It's about
Peninsula.
a foot deep most of the time now. So yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah,
The flats, they call it.
and you can see where the shoreline used to be, 100, 150 years ago from the old dune lines there. That's all since they built the jetties. So that's what the big jetties are doing in our coast. They're taking sand that used to move along the coast and permanently trapping it. Some of it goes washed out so far offshore that the waves can't bring it in, because without wave action, the sand isn't moving. The currents aren't fast enough in the shoreline. The current generated by the water coming in with the waves cannot move sand without it being suspended by the wave action. So when you get out beyond where the wave action is stirring up the bottom, the sand doesn't move. That's about 18 feet of depth on this coast. So beyond 18 feet, there's not much sand moving. So that inlet has been a huge starvation factor for Galveston Island.
And we're stuck with it.
Well, we need the ports.
I mean, that's right. I mean, and the nice thing is that, luckily, lately the business that's come to the port has maybe helped offset some of the tourist business we've lost to this thing. So hopefully it all balances out and works out someday. So. Any other questions? Thanks.
Thanks, Bob.